Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center. This place is different. The Fidelco Group, TD Bank, ADP, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, here when you need us most, now and always. The Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare. Johnson & Johnson, and by New Jersey Sharing Network. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com, all New Jersey in one place. And by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at it.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, welcome to a two-part special. You know, there's an event called the Russell Berrie Making a Difference Awards. We've been doing it for years. This is the 25th anniversary of that award ceremony. This year happened to be virtual. I've been honored for the last, every one of those years, to host that event. But in this first part of the Russell Berrie Making a Difference award ceremony, you're going to meet an extraordinary group of leaders, people who made a difference, who did not seek attention, they don't want attention, they don't want to be recognized, but they did such important, extraordinary things that we did. This is part one of a two-part special, Making a Difference. Hi, folks. I'm Steve Adubato. This is a very special event. Yes, it's virtual, but no less special. This is the 25th Russ Berrie Making a Difference Award ceremony. Now, listen, of course, because of COVID-19, we can't be together this year. Cross our fingers, next year we will, but this year we're doing this virtually. 1997 was the first year that the Russ Berrie Award started. Let's go to 2021. So that's 25 years. Get these numbers. These numbers are powerful. These statistics are staggering in a good way. Over 3,800 unsung heroes have been nominated. 380 individuals have been honored from every corner of the state, and $3.75 million have been awarded in these presentations, in these award ceremonies that, by the way, I've been honored to have been moderating and hosting from the beginning. Now, some of the nominations came in before the pandemic. Some of them came in after the pandemic, but all of the nominees, all of those who we recognize in this virtual event, are making a huge, huge difference in their communities. Let's kick things off. So a while back, I had the opportunity to sit down with Angelica Berry, who you know is the president of the Board of Trustees of the Russell Berrie Foundation, and Scott Berry, who is the vice president of the board. Now, what did we talk about in the conversation you're about to see? Obviously, we talked about Russ. We talked about his legacy. We talked about the reasons why there's a Making a Difference Awards, and we talked about all the difference that has been made in these past 25 years. Let's check out that compelling conversation. Let's go back, okay? 25 years ago. So Russ first brings up the idea of the awards, the Making a Difference Awards. Angelica, your first reaction was?
I thought it was a harebrained idea. I said, how are you going to find all these people? I didn't think it was going to fly. There were too many logistical things that we were not equipped to do. And fortunately, we had a wonderful partner in Ramapo, and it worked out. And it turned out to be one of his brightest and most heartwarming ideas.
I thought it was an interesting idea and an interesting way to really set examples and to get images of people doing things for the greater good that could be transmitted to other people to do things that perhaps would not be recognized for the great things that they do, but set an example.
Well, Russ was one of a kind. He was unique in his character, and he was comfortable in his own skin.
I guess my anecdote for my father is that he was a big teddy bear. And in many ways, although he came across as a very powerful and assertive businessman, he also would cry at the drop of a hat watching a movie, that had some sentimentality to it.
When you think about the people who've won this award, well over 300 honorees of for the Making a Difference Awards over 25 years, those are some of the traits, just some of the traits that talk about who Russ was and why he still matters today.
I think they're all social entrepreneurs. Russ would have loved that because he himself was very entrepreneurial. They were, in a sense, like him. They weren't afraid to go where others feared to tread. And they were not afraid to be pioneers. And I think that every one of them was unique in the work that they do. And these are traits that I feel reflect some of the best traits of Russ.
He had an ability to relate to just about everybody. So I think he would consider this part of his family, and all the people who have received these rewards over the years, part of his extended family.
I want to thank Angelica and Scott for that powerful and compelling conversation. Now let's introduce our first honorees. 19 awards are being presented at this virtual ceremony. Now, as you know, the 2020 ceremony was canceled, and we're recognizing honorees from 2020 and 2021 today. So the first group of honorees, let's talk about them. These are people who are providing young people in New Jersey with opportunities to reach their full potential. They've improved the lives of thousands of children in education and the arts. They deal with issues of social equity, racial justice. These are people who are making a huge difference in the lives of young people. Let's take a look.
Paul Winslow from East Hanover, founder of Students to Science, brings together the public and private sectors to change the life trajectory of students from underserved communities through STEM education with real-world applications and real-world solutions.
I often tell people there's blue collar, there's white collar, and there's no collar, and I was in the class of no collar. And so I grew up in a small town south of Boston, and was fortunate enough to graduate from high school and go on to college. Got a job at Union Carbide in the Specialty Polymers and Composites division. I bought a small testing laboratory in Madison, New Jersey. I did that for about another 3-4 years, and then I went out on my own and started a brand new company called QTI. And I sold that in 2007. I woke up one day and I was deathly afraid that I would have nothing to do. So one of the things I decided was that education made a difference in my life. And so I decided to start Students to Science. From day one, our mission has been the same and has not changed: to inspire, motivate, and educate students from underserved communities to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. 90+% of the students that come to our facility are in underserved communities. I can tell you back in March of last year, March 16th was the day when we shut our laboratories down. I didn't think S2S would survive or ever open up again, okay? And that was a very sad day for all of us. We all gathered together and we just, we're like, well, we did the best we could. But we not only survived, but we thrived. And we only thrived because of the hard work, dedication, and diligence of all the people involved. And we're really, really excited about opening back up in September and coming back even stronger. So that's what it means to me.
Wilhelmina Holder, Newark, is president of Newark Secondary Parents Council and co-director of the High School Academic Support Program. Decades after having children in the public education system, she continues to advocate for equity and opportunity for young people in Newark public schools.
My work in education came about because when my children entered middle school, actually. I was a volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club in Newark, And there was something consistent and troubling for me in that the ones that came in could not read well. And I used to complain a lot about that to the directors and the other volunteers and people at the Boys and Girls Club. And one of them, my dear friend, said to me, well, do something about it. I was sort of pushed into. I'd like to say that I believe in justice, and I'm just perplexed as to why systems don't really work well for people. And then the understanding is we have to educate people about their place in the system and how they have to engage. So we found there was a lack of information. So we do advocate for adequate funding for schools. I could go advocate and speak at the New Jersey State Legislature because you have to organize people, you have to inform people, help them. I love seeing the young people, some young adults now, some young children who say to me, my life has made better. I think for me, that's the biggest joy, that people trust me and believe in me and give me an opportunity to share their lives. There's no greater joy.
Larry Abrams of Cherry Hill is founder of Book Smiles, a champion of literacy. He is combating book deserts in South Jersey by collecting and redistributing books so that underserved children have a personal library at home, what Larry calls book wealth, to develop good literacy skills.
There are tens of thousands of children who still don't have books in their homes. We need to find a pipeline. We are that pipeline. We are that bridge to get books into the hands and homes of babies and kids who don't have books. We want them to just have the hardware around, and the reading will follow if the hardware is there. We want children to become emissaries, to give baby board books to younger brothers and sisters. That's a beautiful thing. When I'm at book fairs and we're giving books to children and they kind of timorously ask, well, how much is it? Because they're used to, that other wonderful book fair organization, but oftentimes they can't afford the books or they don't have the money. And so they're kind of used to that. And then when they ask, how much is it? We say, oh, the only thing it'll cost you is a smile. We're Book Smiles. What we do is we upcycle books, and that is what gives me joy. Saving books from going into the trash, saving books from getting yellowed on shelves, and making sure that children who live in book deserts get great books too.
Sharon Miller of Montclair is founder of Sharon Miller's Academy for the Performing Arts. For over 25 years, Sharon has expanded arts education access for thousands of underserved New Jersey young people, primarily children of color.
My mother was an educator, and her philosophy was knowledge is power, and no matter what you choose to do, educate yourself in that area. And if it's your passion will allow, when you learn everything about that, to not only achieve, but to share that achievement.
Not only does Sharon now lead an academy for the performing arts, but she also runs programs for inner city schools and children with special needs and learning disabilities.
I see so many kids who've never had the opportunity to be transformed through the arts. And they see a dance move, and it could be just a creative movement move. A spiral sit into the floor and get up and then say, yay! Suddenly there's engagement, suddenly there's enthusiasm, and there's a desire for more. So they become what they've always been, which is a sponge for learning. But unfortunately, I think in our educational system, and particularly in our underserved communities, the arts are considered an addendum. They're not considered necessarily an essential. I love what I do. I love children, and I sincerely believe that the arts can transform a life.
Rosa Zaremba from South Plainfield, founder of Mexican Alliance of New Jersey, helps young people in Latinx communities explore college and career options by connecting them with mentors and learning opportunities.
My guidance counselor really took the time to educate me and told me about scholarships and showed me the possibilities of getting into college. I was working full time and in order to pay for my education, thankfully I was able to get 2 or 3 scholarships that paid for 2 years of my college. And through college, I made some connections that led me to my first big job after college. I began to see things differently and understand that maybe I could do a little bit more. After transitioning to a community college where I worked in Middlesex County College, actually, and talking to those students really made me realize that I needed to do more and really give back to those students that needed that guidance. They didn't know their options of going to college. Aside from a county college, what other options do they have? So through that whole journey and process, I was able to create the nonprofit MOF New Jersey, where we provide educational services to high school, college, and recent grad students. And everyone who joins the organization they have to have the same vision. And it's that they can help the second generation. They can help their younger siblings or their cousins or a stranger and break that cycle of not knowing.
Emma and Quinn Joy of South Orange are the founders of Girls Helping Girls, period. They address one of the most overlooked and under-discussed issues facing low-income women today, period poverty. Emma and Quinn embody the spirit of making a difference while advocating and educating others to erase the stigma surrounding menstrual health.
We were not aware that this was an issue, that there was no government program in place to help women with this basic need.
The mission from the get-go is we want girls and women or whoever needs these products to stay in school because they shouldn't have to miss parts of their education due to this basic need. We absolutely see a difference in just working with our clients, whether it be at a food pantry or a women's shelter, or even if it's just someone who's reached out that we are directly put into contact with. Right away when we give them the products, their faces light up. And so any little bit of spreading the word on what is going on helps to put pressure on people to make those products available to more people.
Recognition it's not, I know Emma will agree with me, it's not about putting our names on anything. It's not about saying, we started this, we did this. It's just about expanding the conversation and making this a group effort. That's really what it's about for me.
Obviously an amazing group of honorees that are making a difference in the lives of others. Now, this next group of honorees, they're not afraid to stand up for the rights of others. Now, this past year obviously has been difficult in many ways, not just because of COVID, which has been bad enough, but events have shown that hate, racism, and systematic injustice, sadly, clearly still exist in our communities. So this next group of honorees has been standing up for the rights of others and fighting for justice and equity. They are changing the world, and here they are.
Cheryl Olitsky of North Brunswick is the founding director of Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, whose mission is to build trust, respect, and relationships between Muslim and Jewish women and teenage girls. Her inspiration for the group came after a trip she took to the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland.
I said, you know what? The Holocaust happened because not enough people rose up and took action. I'm going to go home and take action. And I feel terrible that I really don't have a circle of Muslim friends, and I'm not in the community to help protect them and speak out. I'm going to change that.
Cheryl reached out to a local mosque and was introduced to Ataya Afteb, and their journey began.
We started our little chapter, one chapter, in about 2010. So by April of 2016, we had 25 chapters. By November, we had 50. And we now have about 180, of which 20 are teenage girl chapters. We have a total of 9,000 women And the whole premise of the sisterhood is that it's easy to hate someone you don't know. But when you know them, it's harder to hate them. And when you care and love them, it's impossible. It's all about listening with your heart. It's all about seeing the world through someone else's eyes, not your eyes. And saying that, you know what? Difference is good. We can celebrate those differences. And I, as a person, can grow because of those differences.
Amanda Bacosia of Bloomfield is founder of the GEM Project, which educates young people about critical issues affecting their communities. Through activism and service learning, youth strengthen skills of leadership and community organizing.
It started off at the idea where peers can educate their peers, but today, the GEM Project has completely evolved into really focusing how we can leverage the power of young people within the age groups of 16 to 24 and through a fellowship model, one that utilizes organizing with youth power. And so we have impacted over 3,000 young people and young adults. And what's so interesting about it is during the pandemic, it has allowed us to stretch our arms and our reach beyond Newark, New Jersey. So we have fellows who come from Florida, fellows and based out of Virginia, New York, and all over. They literally go through the different types of process as known as youth organizing. So they provided their own set of demands. And ultimately what ended up happening towards the end of the summer, they were able to kick off a huge rally online that really garnered a lot of community participation, over 1,000 or 2,000 so views. And so that is going to be another great opportunity to truly amplify youth voice.
Kim Gaddy of Newark has spent more than 20 years on the front lines fighting for environmental justice in New Jersey communities of color, starting in her own South Ward neighborhood.
I'm a fourth-generation Newarker. I have lived in the city of Newark all my life. When I started in the environmental field, it was because of my children. I have 3 children, and all of them are asthmatic. And it wasn't until my daughter was diagnosed at the age of 1 that I began to say, oh my God, what is going on? What can I do to kind of prevent the asthma rates, not only in Newark, but throughout the state? Because the one thing, when you see a kid gasping for air, you have no control over that. And so that started my fight 20 years ago. So living in the city of Newark and the South Ward community, my backyard is the 3rd largest port. And we have an airport as well. And what I noticed is that the cumulative impacts of pollution was directly linked to low-income residents and residents who are people of color. And so I began to make the connection with the environmental injustices that was happening and the poor health that our community suffered from. 1 out of 4 children in the city of Newark have asthma versus 1 out of 10 in the Essex County surrounding towns. And so when I heard that statistic, I said something has to be done, and what is actually causing this? And I began to investigate the environmental degradation, the pollution sources, the increase in trucks. You know, we have 25,000 trucks that come in and out of the port. And so that is something that can be easily resolved with electrification of the vehicles, making sure we are changing out the different oils that we use to run some of the equipment. Also rerouting the trucks from coming into the neighborhood where children reside. Well, you know, what I'm most proud of, working with the South Ward Environmental Alliance, Clean Water Action, Ironbound Community Corp, and New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, we had a fight for about 13 years to get the first environmental justice cumulative impacts law passed. And it was finally voted on and passed by the legislation and signed by the governor in 2020. And that's a 13-year fight. The environmental justice cumulative impacts bill will begin to change the future of our community. And then lastly, we have to be able to pass on the information to the next generation so the fight doesn't end with a Kim Gaddy or another person. That this is something that has sustainability.
Well done. Clearly, these three women have had an extraordinary impact on the lives of others. So there you have it. Extraordinary leaders, heroes who make a difference every day. So that was part one. Make sure you catch us on part two of this Making a Difference special, where we see more unsung heroes. You can't afford to miss it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center, the Fidelco Group, TD Bank, ADP, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, Johnson & Johnson, and by New Jersey Sharing Network. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com and by New Jersey Monthly.
New Jersey's early educators and childcare providers are more than twice as likely to live below the poverty line versus the general workforce. Reimagine Childcare, formed by a coalition in New Jersey, is dedicated to improving accessibility, affordability, and quality of childcare and reimagining the way we support these essential providers. Learn more by visiting reimaginechildcare.org.